ever get that feeling? Listening to an album you've known forever, and suddenly, bam, the lyrics hit you in a whole new way.
Totally, like you're hearing it for the first time.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. Iron Maiden's self-titled debut album. We've got the lyrics pulled up from Metal Storm, ready to unpack what makes this album such a game changer.
What always blows me away about this album is, like, even at the very beginning, Iron Maiden weren't just content with, just being heavy metal.
Right.
These songs, they're full of stories, characters, like these mini dramas playing out within the music.
I'll admit, I usually associate early Maiden with that raw energy, not necessarily lyrical complexity. So, convince me, where do you see these mini dramas?
Okay, take Phantom of the Opera, for example. I mean, we all know the name, right?
Right.
But the lyrics, they paint this whole picture of obsession, this struggle against this, like, shadowy enemy.
Yeah.
It's almost like a theater production more than just a straight-up metal song. You know what I mean?
I'm kind of embarrassed to say I never really thought about it like that before. It's like suddenly it's not just a headbanger, it's this whole world they're building. What other examples come to mind?
Well, there's this big theme of escapism that runs through a lot of the album. Running Free, Drifter. They're like anthems for breaking free, living life on your own terms.
Yeah, definitely. Classic Maiden themes right there.
Right. But, and this is where it gets really interesting, they mix that with this really stark look at, like, the darker side of society.
Oh, for sure. It's not all about just running free, is it? There's some grit in there, too.
Exactly. Like, Charlotte the Harlot, it's not a glamorous title, is it? It's a raw look at, well, exploitation, the underbelly of society, all of that. And then you've got Sanctuary, where the main character is on the run from the law. This is Iron Maiden just starting out, and they're already tackling some pretty heavy stuff.
Man, it really makes you wonder if that darkness was like a reflection of their own experiences back then,
Yeah.
Young musicians trying to break into the industry. It couldn't have been easy.
You're absolutely right. It must have been a wild ride for them back then. And speaking of reflections, we can't forget the song that gives the band its name, Iron Maiden.
Oh, man, what a song. So much energy.
It's almost as if they're creating a persona with that song, this force that's both magnetic and dangerous at the same time.
Yeah, I get that.
Like, there are echoes of that phantom in there, too, that power to captivate and frighten all at once.
Listening to you, it's like they weren't just making an album, they were building an identity. That whole Iron Maiden mystique, it's all right there from the start.
Exactly. It wasn't just music, it was a statement. They were announcing themselves to the world.
This is already making me want to go back and listen to the album again.
Yeah.
And we've only just scratched the surface. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I have to ask.
And you know how we were saying how Iron Maiden, the song, is like this bigger-than-life figure? It's almost like it sets the stage for those epic stories they'd tell later on.
Yeah. Totally. It's like a sneak peek at their whole career to come.
So, for someone just getting into Iron Maiden, where would you send them after this album to see those themes evolve?
Well, their second album, Killers, is the natural next step. It kind of builds on everything they started with on the debut, but the songwriting is even more, intricate, and there are even more characters in the mix.
Killers is a great one. It's so cool how the music gets more complex right alongside the lyrics on that album. Like, each part is leveling up at the same time.
Yeah, and that's what's so great about them. Iron Maiden isn't just, playing music. They're building worlds you could just get lost in, and the music is how you get there.
You're so right. It's a whole experience, not just something to have on in the background. We were talking earlier about some of the darker stuff on this album, Charlotte the Harlot, Sanctuary. Did they keep going to those darker places as their music evolved? Oh, absolutely. I'd even say it became like their signature. They weren't afraid to write about huge historical events, like Passchendaele, about the battle, or the Trooper, about the horrors of war. They even go into religion and faith and all of that in songs like The Number of the Beast.
Man, that's a heavy one. People freaked out about that one when it came out.
Oh, yeah. There was all that talk about it being satanic or whatever, which probably just made more people listen to it, if you ask me. But if you get past that initial shock, The Number of the Beast is about some really deep stuff. Good versus evil, free will, the dangers of just blindly following. Pretty intense for a metal band.
Not exactly something you'd expect to hear on the radio. But it sounds like they really struck a nerve with people. Like that willingness to explore the shadows. It's almost like they were saying, yeah, the world's a scary place, but we're going to face it.
I love that. That's a great way to put it. There's something really powerful in acknowledging the darkness in the world, but also inside ourselves. It's not about getting stuck there, it's about facing it head on. And I think that honesty is a big part of why people connect with Iron Maiden.
It's wild how talking about one album can spiral into this whole conversation about their whole career.
Yeah.
But that's the best part of music, isn't it? You see how it's all connected.
Yeah.
So, for everyone listening who's hooked on these lyrics and killer riffs, what's the one thing you want them to remember from this?
That Iron Maiden, they're way more than just heavy metal. They're storytellers, historians. They're talking about what it means to be human, you know. Their music makes you think as much as it makes you want to headbang.
So well said. Even on that very first album, you can see where they'd go next.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I have one more question for you. We've been digging into all the dark stuff in Iron Maiden's music, but there's also that feeling of escape, like that desire to break free that comes up in so many songs. Do you think that's part of what makes their music connect with people, even when it's about tough stuff?
Oh, for sure. It's that balance, you know, the dark and the light. That's what makes it so interesting. You can get totally lost in a song about war or whatever, but there's always that like undercurrent of hope, of fighting for what you believe in.
Yeah, it's like they're not just throwing the problem at you, they're giving you a way to deal with it.
Right. It's about looking those tough emotions in the eye, but never losing sight of the good stuff, the strength inside all of us. That's powerful stuff.
It's not pretending everything's perfect. It's about finding that will to keep going when things are rough. I think that's something everyone understands.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's what makes Iron Maiden more than just a heavy metal band. You know what I mean? They connect with something universal, something that goes beyond age or whatever. It's that feeling of facing your fears, but finding the strength to carry on.
That's incredible when you think about it, how much music can do. It's more than just entertainment. It's like comfort, a way to let go, even a way to fire you up. And for Iron Maiden, it like changed heavy metal forever, pushed the limits of what it could be.
They weren't afraid to be different. They embraced telling stories, they went deep on complex issues, and they inspired a ton of other bands to do the same. They left their mark, that's for sure.
So true. So for anyone listening who's ready to jump into the world of Iron Maiden, what's the best place to start?
This debut album is essential. It's pure energy, amazing lyrics. It's like the map for everything they did after. From there, it's a wild ride through history, myths, all of that. Every album is a chapter in their story.
And there you have it, a deep dive into the one and only Iron Maiden. We uncover the genius of their lyrics, the power of their stories, and the impact they still have today.
Loved exploring it all with you.
And to everyone listening, keep searching for those hidden depths in the music you love, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive. Until then, stay curious.